Hello everyone, good evening and thanks for coming along.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it because God knows I invited like 100 people, so the fact that you guys made the effort is great. There's so few people here tonight and we've got so many songs. I can dedicate one song for each individual. Thanks to Simon and Jennifer for having us tonight, the Beyond Q management. I'm Spaceman. If you haven't met Nick yet, this is Nick, my good friend MJ, and I'm Spaceman. We're going to play a few songs about my life, hence the name, The Musical. Starting with a song about some fun and games I had in New Orleans. Yep. I landed in New Orleans. First up was India House. Next up was Bourbon Street. A water bar I found. My home came Merle. The fog of my new friends. They gave me an education. Voodoo music zen. It was flawless, I wanted to draw. Without a princess, I dropped my beer on the floor. Nara and Candace provided me with free drinks. Made an impression there, that's what I think. In New Orleans and I'm running wild. To say that I'm wasted, putting it mild. This stuff won't be long till I carcass. I love drinking that Southern comfort. At night in Jackson Square, the psychics come out in force. The tarot told me my future, I'm a beautiful woman of course. I did meet such a lady, Willow was her name. She showed me around the city, the girl was clearly insane. And Willow was sex in the house of God. Amen, sister, if only we could. The fortune teller thinks that I'm Irish. Now when I see him, I make my accent switch. I'm in New Orleans and I'm running wild. To say that I'm wasted is putting it mild. Keep this up, won't be long till I carcass. I love drinking that Southern comfort. Will I ever get off this merry-go-round? How will I escape this party town? I'm gonna have to use the lifeline now. I wanna be running when I hit the ground. I'm in New Orleans and I'm running wild. To say that I'm wasted is putting it mild. Keep this up, won't be long till I carcass. I love drinking that Southern comfort. I met two friends in Rebecca and Jane. With their resources they were able to save me. Loved the good times and perspective they gave me. I hopped on the bus and I headed to DC. Just a word of warning, my music has a strange effect on Nick. He starts pulling faces, looks like he's having a fit. Don't worry, we had him tested, he's alright. Yeah, we're not at Gamacon now.
That's right.
We played at Gamacon last week though. We all dressed up.
Space had an astronaut suit. It was out of this world. Why didn't you wear it tonight?
We're not at Gamacon now.
Exactly. In it just, right? Why not?
I was worried someone else would come dressed as an astronaut as well. I didn't want to clash. Well, most of you know me, but for those who don't, and normally at shows people don't, so to introduce this next song, I explain a bit about myself. So many years ago, a mate of mine and I, we got really drunk and we thought it'd be funny to change our names. And when we sobered up, we went through with it. I changed my name to Spaceman Africa and he changed his name to Crazy Horse Invincible. And I based mine on a bracelet I had from South Africa. In different coloured beads, it had S Africa. Spaceman used to be a nickname and it starts with S, so I chose Spaceman Africa. And if you're ever thinking of changing your name, I recommend it. It's been very entertaining. For example, in 2008, I won a Name of the Year competition. I beat Fonda Dix in the final. And in 2004, Crazy Horse and I, we booked some flights to Prague, and the airline rang up Crazy Horse demanding to know his real name. They thought he was up to some sort of fraud and he had to go into the airport to show his ID, but they didn't question my name. But often when my name is questioned, people will say, "What? Your last name's Africa? What, as in the country?" And if they're nice, I'll let it slide, but if they're rude, I'll go, "No, Africa is in the continent. Africa's not a country." And so in this next song, it's called Who is Spaceman Africa? If you listen carefully, you'll hear what my name was before I changed it. And then at the end of the song, you can hear a few of my aliases. This is called Who is Spaceman Africa? I was going to play the Mel and Junior Stand. I think that's what
I'll do that, yes.
All right.
Go wait.
Ready. I just introduced the songs. I don't know what they are, how to play them.
Now I go?
Yeah. There once was a man who changed his name went far and broad and came people online and a shift in time, and his life was never the same. There once was a man named Space, his name from birth became erased. He and Crazy Horse, they have no remorse, known all over the place. A different caliber, born and raised in Australia, living the dream in Canberra. Spaceman Africa, he's a charming bachelor, bought a bracelet in South Africa and changed his name from Angela. Just kidding, it was Pamela. Nah, seriously, it was Erica. There once was a name contest to choose which name was the best. Funny anecdote how Space won the vote for Bondage was not so blessed. There once was a budget airline who questioned if Crazy was genuine. Had to show ID so they leave him be, but Facebook he said just fine. Spaceman Africa, he plays guitar like an amateur. His guns are spectacular. Said no one ever. Spaceman, he's a traveler, but he ain't no drug trafficker. He ain't no troublemaker. And ladies, he's a great lovemaker.
In the country.
Now, mate, what I think it is you meant was Africa like a continent. Spaceman Africa, Snowman Antarctica, Sandman Arabia, Swagman Australia, Superman America, Shakeman Nigeria, Soviet Man Armenia.
Yeah, I think I got it back. I'm not sure if I can make the note face. I'm not feeling the face. It's too intimate a crowd, you know what I mean? Like, this whole setup like love song and stuff, and I'm gonna be like, it's not gonna work.
That's why I don't have my glasses on. I can stare at them and can't see them at the same time. Could someone pass me my drink, please? Hand for Brian, thank you. Water boy. Thanks to Jens for coming. He came all the way from interstate just to be here tonight. Not afraid to sit in the front row where we might pick on him. What's next?
Best song.
So many years ago I was camping with a girlfriend at the time. We had a camper van and the camper van almost exploded on 2 separate occasions. The first one because of the gas bottle caught on fire. We had the gas bottle in the van and it caught on fire, and then so I picked it up and put it outside on the ground away from danger, except it fell over and rolled under the van. And then a comedy of errors continued where a hippie showed up, gave us a lecture on the safeties of camping, and in the end 2 big fire trucks showed up to save the day. The other occasion was, the radio caught on fire. And the same van, yeah, the same trip, yeah. Just a few weeks later. And we were very lucky because it didn't explode. Because I was worried, because in Hollywood, cars explode all the time at the drop of a spark, but thank God we weren't in Hollywood. This is called It's on Fire. Driving in our van, camping where we can, driving with an open throttle, cooking with a dodgy gas bottle, stop for a Weller break. Want some coffee?
Yeah! Thanks, mate!
Stand back, I'm lighting the gas. Ah, fuck shit, man, move your ass on fire! On fire!
Wake up, man!
On fire!
Put water on it!
On fire! There's a fire in the van. God, we're not in Hollywood. Find the water can. Glad we're not in Hollywood. The explosion would be grand. The scene we're made in Hollywood. Could call the fireman. To save the day like no one could. Take off once again to me and the gods. So I burst right out of this car park. I turned and it ain't no joke. The cabin's full of deep smoke is on fire! On fire!
Oh my God, man!
On fire!
I got it!
On fire! There's a fire in the van. God, we're not in Hollywood. Can't find the water can. So glad we're not in Hollywood. Explosion would be grand. The scene we're made in Hollywood. Can call the fireman. To save the day like no one could. There's a fire in the van. Thank God we're not in Hollywood. Can't find the water can. So glad we're not in Hollywood. Explosion would be grand. The scene we're made in Hollywood. Just call the fireman. To save this daylight, no one could. Everyone awake now?
Space is selling his books as well as the CDs with quite a unique package at the end of the show, guys. So please, if you haven't got one, get one because you're here for it, innit?
Yeah, this all came about because I had these funny little songs and I'd recorded them on a dodgy camera, just me and the acoustic, and put them on YouTube, and a music magazine found them and emailed me and said, oh, do you have any like good copies? And I thought, yeah, that'd be a good idea to record good versions of my song. Turns out the magazine were just trying to get me to subscribe or some sort of ploy. But meanwhile, I went to Nick and I said, is there like some sort of thing I can plug into the guitar into the laptop and get a good recording? And he goes, oh man, just use my studio. And I went, oh, that sounds good. Well, I may as well, if I'm going to use a proper studio, I might as well add drums and add bass and may as well record an album and may as well release it and may as well play it live. And
Too right, man.
and here we are.
It's good to be here, man.
So it's all Nick's fault. Yeah, thanks Nick, by the way.
Pleasure, man.
All right. Thanks to MJ too, who's... Do you have anything to say? Anything to add?
No.
Okay.
Move along there.
Sorry. I'm quite a bit of a postcard writer, and many years ago, actually this was the same drinking session that when I changed my name. I was in the pub, had these postcards, didn't know who I was going to write to, so we got the phone book from behind the bar, and we chose someone randomly out of the phone book, me and Crazy Horse, and we started writing postcards to that person. As if we'd been long lost friends, but we never gave our last names. We just
wherever we went, we wrote to him, and whoever we met, we told them to write to him as well. And it was good fun. It's like writing in your diary. Instead of Dear Diary, you write Dear Brian. His name was Brian Oliver. He lived in Dublin. And then you just write to him about what travels you're up to, and then you leave some comment at the end to suggest that you don't know him, like, hey Brian, how are you? I shaved my head today, I don't think you'd recognise me. Or you go, hey Brian, haven't heard from you in a while. Don't be a stranger now. And we did that for over 3 years. Until eventually I actually met him. That's another story which you can read in the book. So this song is called Brian Oliver. It's a tongue-in-cheek dig at Brian for never writing back. But of course he couldn't. He didn't know who I was or my address.
But you found him, man. You found him.
Well, I knew where he lived.
But you hung out with him though, you know?
Yeah, I met him and I had a few drinks.
Alright, let's do it.
Brian Oliver, why don't you write? There's something about me that you don't like. Brian Oliver, hey man, what gives? Don't forget now I know where you live. You mean Crazy Horse, we go way back. Had our share of some high good crack. I'm now double growth and you nail 1 or 2 postcards without fail. Brian Oliver, why don't you write something about me that you don't like? Brian Oliver, hey man, what gives? Don't forget now I know where you live. You've always been welcome to join us late, but you've never come along, no not too late. 23 Motefield, Dublin 5. No word from you to say that you're alive. Brian Oliver, why don't you write? There's something about me that you don't like. Brian Oliver, hey man, what gives? Don't forget now I know where you live. I could always write to Andrew Pye, Thomas Foley, now they both break night. Turned real cold and you put up a wall. Have to say, Brian, I don't know you at all. Brian Oliver, why don't you write something about me that you don't like? Brian Oliver, hey man, what gives? Don't forget now I know where you live. Brian Oliver, I know where you live. Brian Oliver, I know where you live, Brian Oliver. I know where you live, Brian Oliver.
Brian Oliver.
All the songs are like ludicrous speed tonight.
Sorry, that's what am I doing? I do get a bit excited. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So we have the CD, and the CD comes with a book with all the stories about the songs. For example, Bondage Bob. Ever been stuck as to what to buy someone for Christmas? For example, what do you buy a 7-month-old baby? I guess you could buy something that is helpful to the parents. I'm a childless male. I have no idea what parents want or need. I do know this though, they don't need an uncle giving their child a sex slavery themed toy. I had arrived back in my hometown of Canberra in late 2001. After 10 months travelling around Europe, I decided I would stay for the summer, which included Christmas. This particular Christmas, my brother Neville invited me to have Christmas lunch at his house. Also invited was his wife's family, including her parents, grandparents, her sister, and her sister's husband. The in-laws' presence indicated that the day was going to be quite a formal affair. The grandparents were going to be old and harmless, but the mother-in-law was the stereotypical mother-in-law, and I could only imagine the pain in the butt she was going to be. And she's here tonight. No, thankfully not. My brother had a 7-month-old boy called John Robert, experiencing his first Christmas, and so it was expected that everyone would buy a present for the young man. Now, I like to be a little different to everyone else. I'd spoken to a few people regarding their choice of gift, and they had taken the soft option of buying a cuddly toy. Not me, I thought, but the closer the 25th loomed, the more desperate I became, and I found myself taking the easy way out and buying the young lad a stuffed bear. But if I thought Christmas Day was going to be boring and uneventful, I changed all that with a gift that was sure to raise a few eyebrows. I bought JR a small teddy bear, dressed in bondage wear. Bondage Bob was his name. He was dressed in leather undies and was tied up with leather straps. He even had a ball gag in his mouth with leather straps around his head. Before you start thinking I'm a weird, sick puppy, I didn't go out shopping specifically to buy a bondage toy. I stumbled across the bear when browsing through a novelty shop. As soon as I saw it, I burst out laughing. I knew immediately that my present search was over. I couldn't help but laugh, thinking about the trouble I was going to cause when the in-laws saw what I was to give their grandson. The bear even came with a tag attached to it containing a poem. You can hear the poem in the bridge of this song. I thought I may never be invited to another one of their Christmas lunches again. Christmas Day arrived and my brother's wife Belinda cooked some great food. As for Bondage Bob, well, after John woke from his afternoon nap, he was brought into the living room to open the mountain of gifts he had waiting for him. And wouldn't you know it, Belinda asked me to go first. So I took my gift over to John, who was sitting on Bronwyn's lap, Belinda's sister, and handed it to the pair. As they both unwrapped it, everyone's eyes were fixed on them. The wrapping paper fell away and Bronwyn held up the bear. What the hell is this? The different reactions from people as they realised what the present was were hilarious. Some were laughing and some had a look of confusion on their face. In the end, everyone saw the funny side of it. Belinda's grandparents didn't even understand what it was. And in the end, no one was offended. Later in the day, when other guests dropped in to say hello, the first gift they were always shown was the bondage teddy. Recently, for his 16th birthday, I gave John a book of insults. Do you think I'm a bad influence? So one of many stories you can read about when you hear the songs and wonder what's that song about.
It's Christmas 2001, the first Christmas for Neville's son. I bought a gift for baby John, a toy unfit for a boy so young. But my present to John was the best part, none, a surprise to all, designed to stun. soft toy bear, cuddly and fun, and the fun had just begun. Bondage Bob, the next top throb. Bondage Bob, from the novelty shop. Bondage Bob, he wears a leather top. Bondage Bob, from the novelty shop. You see, I taught a bear in bondage wear with leather straps and underwear. The parents were there, but they didn't care. And the grandparents, well, they were unaware. Bob the bear, super debonair. His love for handcuffs, a real bugbear. You can't take him anywhere. Bondage Bob, the next top throb. Bondage Bob, from the novelty shop. Bondage Bob, he wears a leather top. Bondage Bob, from the novelty shop. I wear my leather now off the weather with whips and chains. I'll bleed with pain, let me ride you in the saddle, give you in saddle, stay by my side until you're satisfied. Bondage Bob, let's hop through. Bondage Bob, from an option shop. Bondage Bob, with a leather top. Bondage Bob, from an option shop. I love Nick's backing vocals on that song.
I'm really self-conscious, actually.
Alright, let's look at Nick.
Get away, all of you. This is going to be a punk show, isn't it?
This next song is called the Mel and Junior Stand. I'm going to bring a friend up to introduce the song. Please welcome Brian to the stage.
What a pleasant surprise. So Space and I have known each other for about 30 years. We met at school on the school bus, and we used to play football after school almost every day. I should just mention, he talked about when he changed his name. What he didn't tell us was that him and his mate were in Dublin at the time, and they're having such a good time they didn't want to go back to London to work. So his mate called up and called in for Space dead. So he actually rang up the work and said, "Look, I'm really sorry, but his previous name is dead. He won't be able to come into work. I'm sorry." And I'm so upset I can't come either. And they were very upset, and they sent all the money to him. Then they decided to change their name and do a bunch of other stuff. So he's the only guy I've ever known to call into work dead. So that says a lot about him. Anyway, so when we were playing football, we were both big Tigers fans, Balmain Tigers fan, and so we self-nicknamed ourselves after two of the big players. So he was Mel and I was Junior, hence the name, the Mel and Junior Stand. And we were out one night drinking with another friend, and we came home, and we didn't want to finish the night because we hadn't seen each other for a long time. So we went up and grabbed some drinks from my parents' place, went down the local oval where we used to play, and kept drinking. At the far side of the oval was an old brick toilet block, which we used to call like our grandstand, or the Melon Junior Stand. And we used to climb on top of it and talk after school and after football. Anyway, that night we were all a bit drunk, and Space had the great idea of maybe actually naming it the Melon Junior Stand with some spray paint. So we went and got some black spray paint and decided, look, guys, I'll go and do this. The other friend was training to be a police officer, so he wanted nothing to do with this act of vandalism. So he stood way up in the bushes. I, being just drunk and stupid, stood right in the middle of the oval, not quite sure what I wanted to do. And Space went off to spray paint the Melon Junior Stand. Anyway, he came back a few minutes later, and his face was covered in black spray paint. And we looked at him laughing and didn't know quite what had happened. What he'd done was he took the spray can out, went up to do it, and it was facing backwards. So as he went to spray, his whole face was covered in black spray paint, which would have been fine once. But he tried again with the same result. Anyway, if that wasn't bad enough, we headed to the 24-hour Coles in Curtin to get something to eat. And we said, you can't come in like that. It's not with a face covered in black spray paint. You just can't do it. So he went and washed it off, came back, and we said, you can't come in with that can of spray paint at like 2 o'clock in the morning. They'll think you're someone dodgy. So he went, right, I'll put it in the bushes over here. Went over to the bushes, pushed down in the bushes, and the black spray paint sprayed all over his hands, over himself. And as a result of that fantastic adventure, we have another song called the Mel and Junior Stand.
Thanks, Junior.
I love hearing these stories.
This song normally has crowd participation. We'll see how you guys go.
You know, every time I hear it, there's always something more gets revealed. It's awesome. It's like this. Every time, like, there's like a little bit more, you know. Brian gets a pick, there's a little bit more of the whole thing, man. It's tremendous. Sorry, I'm gonna go.
You know what I suggest?
Reading the book.
Buy the book. Available at the back after the show. Signed copies and everything. Alright, so hopefully you're up for it. Later on, I think it would sound awesome if everyone shouts the chorus. You need to know 2 words. First one is paint, and the second one is also paint. Okay, here we go. 1, 2. Late at night, South Curtin Oval, me and some mates, we're gonna be antisocial. Cover the toilet box, drink some graffiti, got my split hands, could be really easy. Sorry. Then it's really dark as I hold the pink bottle. I can't see where I'm aiming the nozzle. I point the can and the toilet's locked. Straight away, I receive it with shock. I got paint all over my face. I got paint all over the place. There's more paint on my right hand. There's paint on the Melon Junior Stand. The nozzle was pointed right at my hand covered in paint. Not what I planned. I dropped the can and wiped my face, my cheeks smudged with paint. My laughing face, I got paint all over my face. I got paint all over the place. There's more paint on my right hand. Then paint on the Melon Junior Stand. Perfect this time, but then, can you believe it? I did it again. I got paint over my face. I got paint over the place. There's more paint on my right hand. Then paint on the Melon Junior Stand. Alright, this is where you guys can come in. So the words are paint. I think it would sound really good if everyone shouted paint. So I'll sing my bit. I sing all over my face. You sing paint. I sing all over the place. You sing paint. I sing more paint on my right hand. You sing paint. And I sing on the Melon Junior Stand. And you sing rock on.
Can you run those instructions again?
See how we go. 1, 2, 3. I got paint all over my face. I got really good, yeah? Even got the rock on. Let's do it again, a bit louder. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, I got bass, bass. All over my face, I got bass, bass. All over the place, there's more bass, bass. On my right hand, bass, bass. On the Mel and Junior Stand. It's pretty good, yeah?
Yeah, man.
Alright, one more time, let's shout it. I got bass, bass. All over my face, I got bass, bass. All over the place, there's more bass, bass. On my right hand, then bass, bass. From the Melon Junior Stand. Woo-hoo. A round of applause for the audience, yeah? Well, I wasn't sure how that would go. Next. 10 minutes, do you want me to do the backing vocal?
Yeah. You know, it's up to you. It's your song. It's your night. I'll do it. I'll probably suck.
We're not about perfection here.
What do MJ? Does MJ want to do it? I could swap. I could pass my mic to you, and you pass your mic to MJ.
Yeah.
No.
MJ's not sure how she got here. She's just. Someone handed her a guitar and she came in for a book. I've got one I could sell you.
Just browsing.
This song is, I had my 30th birthday in Amsterdam with a couple of mates, of about 10 of us, and one night, after everyone else had sort of crashed, there was just me and one other guy, and he said, okay, it's your birthday, come on, let's go to the red light district, my shout. I thought, oh wow, this will be fun. It wasn't. Let's just say there was a dispute over the time period of a certain business transaction. This is called, did you know you only get 10 minutes? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Shopping and I'm in Amsterdam, the perfect place for wham bam, thinking ma'am. It's my birthday and it's my mate's street. We make our way to the red light street. We find a window with 2 Dutch blondes. We pay the pimp and then I'm gone. The single bed and a party of 4. Try to make love, but they make war. I'm lucky only at 10 minutes. Oh, what the fuck, we're not getting close to finish. Sorry, boy, you only get 10 minutes. I didn't know you only get 10 minutes. When with the girl I always try to finish a lot longer than just 10 minutes. My woman says that everyone knows about the time limit without clothes. I'm near the door, so I ask someone there. They shake their heads, they had no idea. The fun now stops for my friend too. Stopped early before he was through. A single bed and a party of 4. We tried to make love, but they made war. Sorry, baby, but we're not yet close to finish.
Sorry, man, you only get 10 minutes.
I didn't know you only get 10 minutes. When with the girl I always try to finish a lot longer than just 10 minutes. I didn't know you only get 10 minutes. When with the girl I always try to finish a lot longer than just 10 minutes. I didn't know you only get 10 minutes. When with the girl I always try to finish a lot longer than just 10 minutes. Oh, come on, ladies, where's the love? You realise I can give you a bad review on stripping.com, don't you? Oh, come on, mate, let's go.
We need to discuss which one was going to do the backing vocals there. That's alright then. We got there.
Yeah, we discussed who would do it without deciding who would do it. So, I'm hitchhiking in Germany. And I got a ride from a truck driver. Everything was going well until he propositioned me. This song is called Horny German Truck Driver. Featuring MJ on the bass. Alright. Found myself hitchhiking on the road in Germany. I had me a sign explaining my next destiny. Just when I thought a ride wasn't meant to be, along came a trucker who stopped to pick up me. He said, I do you too, and can I do you too, have my way with you. I said, now prompting slam, so I don't understand why you don't use your hands. Cause he's a horny German truck driver, wants from me a sex favor, gets lonely on the road, he wants my help to shoot his load. Cause he's a horny German truck driver, horny German truck driver. Handed me a magazine which I was keen to read. Naked women in the book, they were a sight to see. The driver got excited, I could see his pink underneath. Next thing I knew, he was flirting there with me. He said, I do you do, and can I do you too, I'll have my way with you. I said, now promptly slam, so I don't understand why you don't use your hands. Cause he's a horny German truck driver, he wants from me a sex favor, gets lonely on the road, he wants my help to shoot his load. Cause he's a horny German truck driver, horny German truck driver. Set the price at 50, who wants to pay him for me? I said, no, I don't agree. Let me out here, end the story. Horny German truck driver, horny German truck driver, he wants from me a sex favor, horny German truck driver. Yeah, we can laugh at it now. At the time it was very awkward. I was worried about turning him down, he might get angry, so I just pretended I couldn't understand German. Until eventually I said, alright, yeah, look, no, I'm not interested. I waited in suspense for his reaction, and he surprised me. he became all normal. He goes, so what, are you just backpacking around Germany, or are you a student? What are you? And I said, mate, I'll get off at the next stop. When I mean get off, I mean I'll leave right now. And sweet Derriere. You all did so well singing the last Mel and Junior Stand. We'll get you involved in this one as well. That's one we can think of. So I'm in London, Leicester Square, and with some mates. We've been on a pub crawl, and there's some street performers in Leicester Square doing some fire breathing. And I think one of my mates dared me, I don't know, but I went up and had a go, and I took the bottle of fuel, put it in my mouth, took the flame to my mouth, opened my mouth, and nothing. I didn't know you weren't meant to swallow the fuel. So I grabbed the fuel again, put it in my mouth. I left it in my mouth, put the flame to my mouth, I opened my mouth, and the desired result, I was fire breathing. So with that done, off we went to our next pub. But then, not long later, I developed the worst sore throat ever, which was bearable compared to the sore arse I had the next day. As the fluid made its way through my system and came out as a gas, it was like I had razor blades up my arse, and I could hardly walk. Thankfully, I had the day off work, but I still had to go to the bank, and I remember walking in slow motion. And like those race walkers you see at the Olympics, I was walking like that, but in slow motion. It was so painful. This song's called My Sweet Derriere.
1, 2, 3, 4.
A word of advice when fire breathing, be sure not to swallow the fuel. What happened to me could happen to you. Man, I was such a fool. I held the flame out in front of my face, and I opened my mouth there in Leicester Square. But there was no combustion. I swallowed the paraffin on my poor sweet Derriere. Whoa, my sweet Derriere. The pain is more than I can bear. Oh, my sweet Derriere. The pain is more than I can bear. I'm striding like an Olympic walker. I'm moving in slow motion. There's gas coming out of my ass, and I'm hoping there's no explosion. The pain is written on my face, feels like a soul will stand up, you know where. With every step, there's a sharp pain on my pulse with Derriere. Whoa, my sweet Derriere. The pain is more than I can bear. Whoa, my sweet Derriere. The pain is more than I can bear. Whoa, my sweet Derriere. It's the worst for wear. Oh, my sweet Derriere. I hope it can be repaired. Striding like Walker, I'm moving in slow motion. The gas coming out of my eyes, and I'm hoping there's no explosion. The pain is written on my face, cause I could almost end up you know where. With every step, there's a sharp pain on my poor sweet derriere. Whoa, my sweet derriere. Ah yeah, pain is more than I can bear. Whoa, my sweet derriere. Ah yeah, pain is more than I can bear. Alright, so this is where you guys come in. I'll sing, whoa, my sweet derriere. You go, ah yeah. I sing, pain is more, and you repeat, the pain is more. Then all together we sing, more than I can bear. Alright, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoa, my sweet derriere. Oh yeah. The pain is more than I can bear. That's it, a bit louder. Whoa, my sweet derriere. Oh yeah. The pain is more than I can bear. Yes, I don't see you singing, man. Is it the word? Alright. Let's do this now. Everyone now, loud and proud. Including you, Nick. Oh, my sweet derriere. Oh, yeah. The pain is more than I can bear. Pretty good, let's do it. Oh, my sweet derriere. Oh, yeah. The pain is more than I can bear. Come on, let's shout it now. Whoa, my sweet derriere. Oh, yeah. The pain is more than I can bear. Whoa, my sweet derriere. Ah, yeah, the pain is more than I can bear. Whoa, my sweet derriere. My sweet derriere. My sweet derriere.
I'll find a picture one day, don't I?
A word of advice about fire breathing. A word of advice, never play in a band with this guy. He just makes you laugh all the time when you're trying to sing. Right. So as well as the CD and the book, I've also got a memoir titled, Who is That Weirdo Dancing in the Corner? This is about 10 years of my life where I travelled the world quite a bit. I'll just read a little bit on the back. It says, Who is That Weirdo Dancing in the Corner is part memoir and part travelogue. Learn how the travel bug takes hold of Spaceman as he goes on a journey of exciting thrills, funny misadventure, and somewhere along the way has a legal name change. So, last week we were at GammaCon, the gaming convention, and we were in between a speaker who was a famous voice for some of the characters in the games, and then after us was pole dancing. Of course, yeah. And so we're sitting there listening to the speaker who I thought would talk about his life as a narrator in different games, but instead he talked about a different game. He talked about picking up chicks.
Yes, Spike Spencer. Is anyone know Spike Spencer, by the way? Name ring a bell? Yes, you don't know? How would...
Friends talk about it a lot.
Sorry?
My friends talk
What's the general consensus? Because it was.
I don't know. I can't recall.
Yeah, fair play. It was really because it was quite condescending the way it came across. It's also kind of hilarious because it's a game convention and he's like, you guys need to pick up. Just really put it upon him, eh?
Well, yeah, pickup is also called game, and his version of it was food game. Because it's really expensive to take people out for dinner and a movie. Why not just invite them to your place for dinner and watch a DVD, and then you don't have to invite them back to your place after because they're already there? And MJ and I were sitting there thinking and looking at each other and thinking, how did we end up here? And then we killed it. There was about 100 or so people for the speaker, and then when we played, there was about 30. And then when the pole dancing started, there was about 300. Anyway, the last time that MJ and I looked at each other and thought, how the hell did we end up here? We were in Cuba, of all places, and we'd got a taxi and asked the taxi driver for a recommendation for a restaurant, and she took us to this. The thing with Cuba is there's no signs. All the buildings look the same, so there could be anything inside, you never know. You'll ask someone, oh, can you take me to a restaurant? They go, there's one in here, and you're like, where? You know, it looks like a normal building. So the taxi driver took us to this office block, and we went in to what we thought were offices. We went up to the 9th floor, 10th floor or something, and walked out of the elevator, and there was a restaurant right there, a weird Viennese restaurant. All the staff were dressed in their pajamas, and the food portions were ridiculous. The food they served us could have fed 4 people each. So
I had 3 plates full for a main meal. For one meal.
And then after we left the restaurant, we thought, what else can we do? As luck would have it, there was a nightclub in the same building. We just had to go. Did we have to go up a floor? Or was it the same floor?
It was different floor.
Different floor. So the restaurant was a few floors up in a high-rise office building. We never would have found it on our own. As we were leaving, we found a nightclub of sorts on the upper level. It was more like a hall. People were seated at tables, and there were waiting staff bringing people their drinks. We found seats at one end of the room near a 2-foot high stage and sipped on some mojitos. We got chatting with one of the guys sharing our table who could speak English. And when the MC asked for volunteers to get up on stage, our newfound friend volunteered MJ. I think they wanted female volunteers, wasn't it? That's why. Yeah. MJ was one of 5 volunteers. I can't remember if she performed any tasks at the beginning. Did you?
Maybe to answer a question or something.
Right. But it wasn't long before each volunteer was told to pick a partner from out of the crowd. Naturally, she chose me. She thought if she was going to make a fool of herself, then she wanted me to do so as well. So we were both now partners in a competition, and the guys at our table were our cheer squad. Round 1 saw all contestants having to dance in the most entertaining way possible to different styles of music. One couple was voted off, and we made it to the 2nd round. We also got through that round and made it to round 3. Our next task was to choose an animal. The MC and the whole 200-strong audience knew we were from Australia, so we went with the obvious choice and chose kangaroos. The MC started outlining what we had to do, and our friend off stage tried to translate it for us. From what I understood, we had to jump around like kangaroos, court one another, and then simulate having sex. I remember thinking, how did we end up here? Not wanting to embarrass ourselves, when it came around to our turn, I wanted to ask the MC directly what we had to do. I didn't understand his answer, but judging by the reaction of the crowd, I could make a pretty good guess. So the MC comes up to me and says, "Okay, now, are you two ready to show us your sex scene?" And I want to clarify. I say to him, "What do we have to do?" And he says, "Well, mate, if you have to ask." The whole audience roared with laughter. Without further ado, the music was playing and everyone's eyes in the room were on us. I looked at MJ and asked, "How do kangaroos have sex anyway?" I missed the episode of Skippy where Skippy got laid. I thought that with their long tails, surely kangaroos wouldn't be doing it doggy style. But there was no time for a committee. We hopped around the stage for about 10 to 15 seconds. I knocked MJ off balance and we both fell to the ground. It wasn't pretty. I landed on her leg and injured her. Very realistic. The crowd was shouting and cheering. Thankfully, they weren't after a true depiction of the kangaroo mating ritual. Our exhibitionist days were over though, as we were voted off out of the competition that round. Our friend kindly organised us some free drinks. We both sat down, glad to be off stage and coming to terms with what just happened. What a totally unexpected turn of events. The joys of travelling, eh? So, just an example of the weird and wonderful you can read about in my memoir, Who Is That Weirdo Dancing in the Corner? All right, so we're going to do a cover now by a band called Flight of the Conchords. They're a New Zealand duo, you may have heard of them.
How you feeling, man?
I've lost my pick. I always lose my pick.
I've got pockets in this.
Is there a pick in the house?
Here we go.
And can you... This one's called Hurt Feelings. For everyone who's ever had hurt feelings. I've got hurt feelings, I've got hurt feelings. I've got hurt feelings, I've got hurt feelings. Make a meal for my friend, try to make it nutritious, try to make it delicious, create wonderful dishes. Nobody thinks about the way I feel, nobody compliments the meal. I've got hurt feelings, I've got hurt feelings. Feel like a prize asshole, no one even mentions my casserole. I've got hurt feelings, I've got hurt feelings. Should've said something nice about my profiterole. Here's a little story, bring a tear to your eye. Went shopping for a wetsuit to scuba dive. Everything I tried was bigger around the thighs. The assistant suggests I try ladies' size. I've got hurt feelings, I've got hurt feelings. I'm not gonna wear a lady's wetsuit, I'm a man. I've got hurt feelings, I've got hurt feelings. Bring me a small man's wetsuit, please. It's my birthday, 2003. I'm waiting for a call from the family. They forgot about me. I've got hurt feelings, I've got hurt feelings. The day after my birthday is not my birthday, Mom. I've got hurt feelings, I've got hurt feelings. So I told my friends to go into town, but they're all too busy to go into town. So I go by myself, I go into town. Gonna see all my friends, they're all in town. I've got her feelings, I've got her feelings. They're all lined up to see that movie made in Manhattan. I've got her feelings, I've got her feelings. Have you ever been told that you're asked to be? Have you ever been asked if your hair is a wig? Have you ever been told you're mediocre in bed? Have you ever been told you got a weird shaped head? Your family ever forgotten you and driven away? Once again, they forgot about Jay. Were you ever called homo to show you some drama? Ever been told that you look like a llama? I'm crying tears of a rapper. I'm crying tears of a rapper. I'm crying tears of a rapper. Go crazy tears of a rapper. Thank you everyone, thanks again for showing up tonight, really appreciate it. If I wasn't playing I probably wouldn't have shown up in this awful weather. Thanks to Simon and Jenny again for Beyond Q for letting us act like idiots tonight. And after the show I'll be up the back. And if you want to say good day and come and buy something, I won't be upset. We're going to finish with this song. This song's not about me, but it's a true story about a friend of a friend. And it's a love story about a man and his cat. So the man is playing with his cat, let's say, and finds a mole. And he was a bit concerned. He rubbed the mole to see if it caused the cat any discomfort, but the cat actually seemed to enjoy it. So from time to time, the guy would rub the mole for his cat, for his cat's pleasure. And then, but things changed when he went to the vet for another matter, but he thought while he was there, he would double check to make sure. And he said to the vet, "Is this mole anything to be concerned about?" And the vet said, "Mole? That's no mole. That's the cat's penis." Resting from a long day, going with the flow. He's coming my way, showing off his moles. Getting filled up, he moans. Puts his feet up, he groans. Rubbing soft, rubbing rough. I tell you folks, I can't get enough. I swear I'm not gay while it's shocked. It's a penis, not a mole. Saturday and the soft rubbing little kitty hole. You think it's easy here from where I stand? Tuesday no one will shake my hand. What can I say? It's a cock and I thought it was a mole. What can I say? It's a cock and I thought it was a mole. Getting filled up and he moans. Put his feet up and he groans. Rub it soft, rub it rough. I take it both, but can't I get enough? It's okay, doc, if I'm rubbing kitchen bones. You say it's foul play while it's rock, no more touching kitchen toes. You think it's easy now that I've been banned from touching cats in my homeland. Walking out there at the park and I thought it was a home. Walking out there at the park and I thought it was a home. I swear I'm not gay while it's dark, it's interesting, it's not a home. Walking out there at the park and I thought it was a home. It's a car, and I thought it was a mofo. Thank you and good night. Cue the music. Any questions? Any marriage proposals? Any?
Yes, I think that person's proposing today.
Oh, press. Yeah, press conference, all right.
Top three.
You sir at the back, Bill, any questions?
Not that I don't know the answers to already.
Okay.
Where's Crazy Horse?
He's currently in Belfast. We actually met in Belfast. He's from Northern England, and he swaps his time between Mexico and Belfast. Currently in Belfast. When he's in Mexico, he lives in Zippoliti, which of course is the only nudist beach in Mexico. Of course. And he runs a bar there called the Chocolate Invincible, named after his signature drink, the Chocolate Invincible.
Well, there you go. There's a destination.
Yes. Any other questions?
Can you tell us about that incident on the third lap with you and Kimi Räikkönen, you know, whose fault it was? How do you think the race went?
I think you've got me mixed up with someone else. Although I did say questions, yes. No comment. How did we end up here? This was never planned. This question time.
Maybe it's a good question, man.
I'll have to write a song about that kangaroo.
No.
It'll be called How Do Kangaroos Have Sex Anyway?
Painful.
MJ asked about the Miller line, which features in my book. Who is that widow dancing in the corner? So in the States, the beer companies aren't legally obliged to put the alcohol content on the bottle or on the can. But they do have hotlines. You can ring up and ask for any beer-related information called the Miller line, 1-800-MILLER-6. And this was the early noughties, before everyone had their own phone, their own internet at the palm of their hand. So we thought we'd test out the Miller line, and we rang up all sorts of weird and wonderful questions that had nothing to do with beer. And the staff, we got to know the staff. And quite weirdly, there was Blaine and Jane and Carl. We had Carl a lot. So we rang up I was in a bar and I had a Formula One shirt on. And this guy said, "Oh, Michelin. Do you know how Michelin originated?" And I said, "No, I don't, but I know how to find out." So I went to the public phone and rang the Miller line and asked, I think it was Carl, and he said, "Look, I'm looking it up, but I can't find it. I'll call you back in 15 minutes. Do you have a number?" So I gave the number of the bar. And then I said to the barmaid, who didn't know me that well at the time, but from just drinking there so often, we came to know each other well. And I said, "Hi, my name's Spaceman. If there's a phone call for me, asking for a spaceman, that'll be for me." And she looked at me like I was some sort of idiot, and that I was just having a laugh. And then sure enough, 15 minutes later, the phone rings and she gives it to me and she goes, "I don't believe it. It's for you." And then Carl said, "I've got the information you need. Michelin was originated, I think it was in 1880 in France, and the Michelin Man was invented in 1888. So I told the guy at the bar next to me, and he was very impressed. I have the Miller line to thank for that. And then, even when we weren't in the States, we were in the UK some months later in a pub, and we were talking about that sitcom Becca, you know, with Ted Danson, and we were like, "What's the name of that woman's name, the ditzy one, the really sort of not quite with it receptionist?" And we couldn't think of it. We could think of Jake, the blind guy. We could think of Reggie, the woman that works in the cafe, but not the receptionist. So I went across the road to the train station, phoned the Miller line, asked, it was Jane this time. I said, although it must have been the first time I met her, because I said, "Yeah, I've got a question about Becca." She goes, "Do you know where you've rung?" I went, "Yeah, but you know, Carl always answers my questions." She's like, "Okay." I went, "Can you tell me the woman, could you please look up who the character name of the woman in Becca, the really ditzy one?" She goes, "I don't need to look it up, that's Linda." I went, "Excellent, thank you." Hang up, went back across to the pub. I went, "It's Linda," and they're like, "Yes, of course." But then, of course, as the internet, and we have phones, the last time I phoned was in 2006. I was in San Diego airport, about to hop on a flight to the UK. I just rang up to say hello. I rang up, and one of I forget who answered, it was a woman, but I said, "Hi, is Carl there? Can I speak to Carl?" No questions, just, "Hi, can I speak to Carl? Is he there?" He goes, "Well, of course he is." Hand him over, and I went, "Hi Carl, it's Spaceman, you might remember me." And he's forever the professional. He goes, "Yes sir, I remember you." I just thought I'd say hello. I'm in the country, but about to hop on a plane to the UK. And he started to sell me new Miller products. He's like, "Have you tried our mid-strength Miller Light?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm about to hop on a plane." And that's the last time we spoke. But if you're ever stuck for information, 1-800-MILLER6. Tell them I sent you. Yeah, ask for Carl. He'll help you out. All right. I think that's it. Thanks very much, everyone.